All right. Hello, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to welcome you all here to the 5th presentation called Northminster Presents, brought to you by the Men's Prayer and Study Group. Originally, we were supposed to have Dan Wakefield here. Unfortunately, he is suffering some health issues, but we do hope that he recovers and we have him back in the spring. In the meantime, I scrambled and got up here to be able to do a presentation for you anyway about the development on the west side, and I'm happy to do so. I think I need to give you a little bit about the historical background real quick, not very long, about how we got from here, A to B, in such a hurry. From the time that was not long ago, about the middle of June, or late June, Shiloh O'Rourke, our preschool director, had been working for quite some time trying to develop the playground because she understood how bad a shape this playground was in and had developed a plan for that project. And then somebody in the church remembered that Jerry Gray used to do this for a living, site development, and said, "Hey, Jerry, why don't you come and take a look at the contract for us and see what you think?" Well, I made a mistake. I went and looked at it, and I found some things that weren't bad, but I wasn't convinced that it was what we wanted. When we originally built the columbarium a few years ago, we were thinking at that time that we shouldn't really do anything on the west side until we at least knew what we wanted to do to the entire west side. So that we had a comprehensive plan in place, something that was not piecemeal and something that would work for the aims and the goals of what our church wanted and where we wanted to go. So everybody agreed with that. They took that back. Debbie took that back to session, I believe, and announced that to the session that we were going to take a hard look at it. And the next thing I knew, I had a 30-hour-a-week job. So away we went. Time was crucial because we had to close the playground down because of so many problems and faults with the site that some were just irritating, some were ugly, some were a violation of code. And with that violation of code, anybody that's ever spoken to an attorney, you would know that you want to be on the right side of code when it comes to children's playground. The liability is immense. So with that in mind, we basically threw everything out and started from scratch. My charge then was to bring to the church a long-term plan for the entire site. Not for me to decide whether to do it or not, or whether we should or what, but to use my past experience and the wonderful skills of Debbie Stewart-Everett, who is our chair and head of the Buildings and Grounds, who leads all this information back to the session. Linda Furness, who is immensely knowledgeable about plants and trees and all those type of things that we're going to employ out here. Adam Newsom, our local fire guy, who has already kept me from violating 2 fire code violations, so he's been a worthy member. And who would build anything around here without Bob Gudgel? I mean, that just makes sense, right? And finally, Morteza Semnani, who is our new office manager, who has really taken over the business aspect of getting all this accomplished. And it's so nice to have him because I wasn't used to getting help on things like this, and he's right there every minute. So it's been a good thing. So with all that said, our first vision was to buy the old Mad Mouse roller coaster from Indiana Beach up at Schaefer Lake. Remember that? And put it out here, and maybe a big sliding through water pits and all that kind of thing. We thought it would both bring revenue and increase attendance like mad. But they backed me off on that and said, no, Jerry, we can't do that. So we went a little more traditional lesson. So now first, a lot of people don't quite know why this has to happen. What were the driving forces behind this that helped create this situation? So, clicker, first one, the barn. The barn has been neglected for a long time. We inspected it. Originally, the plan was to destroy it and buy a new one. We found it to be basically sound but ugly. It has the roofing is shot. It's got mold all over it. It's unattractive. If I was bringing my kid here to a preschool and that's the first thing they saw, I would kind of go, ugh. Well, that's going to be attacked on October 28th by the Buildings and Ground Committee. They're going to put a new roof on it, and they're going to power wash it and prepare it for either stain or paint or wherever we're going to take that on down the road. Outside of that, it's a perfectly serviceable building. It's where the preschool stores all their little riding toys and equipment and all those sort of things. Click. We have tree problems. Sorry, Debbie. If you see these two trees right here, these are scheduled to come down and out. We think that they're a long-term problem. We have a stump that's here that was never removed. So we think we have two trees that are a continuing problem for the church and are trip hazards for the children. So they are in the schedule to come down. Anybody who'd been out there in the last 10 years would know that all of the shrubbery was probably planted in 1955, and it is grossly overgrown, in some places just totally out of control. We are ripping all of these shrubs out. This is, as you come out of the education wing, this is that sidewalk. We're ripping all of those out. We have a landscape plan to go in here for those. You can see this great big overgrown thing by the door where you could hardly get in. It is now gone. All of these, what are those things called? Anybody know what those are called? The blue things? Well, whatever they are, this is all gone. These rails are all rusty here. Again. The infamous wall. The infamous wall, we are lucky that we have not been sued, I assure you. Splinters, they're everywhere. Unstable, unlevel lines to them. The wall is tilting out. There's a significant amount of rot. This was put on a number of years ago. When it rains, it's slick as can be. The fall hazard for kids coming off this wall is very, very high. And grown-ups, very much so. Here's another example. This example is another problem with the playground. This was thought was a good idea back in the early 60s. It's the worst thing in the world you can put on a playground. It's called pea gravel. The pea gravel is an annoyance in that it comes down onto the sidewalk, acts like ball bearings. Kids slip on it all the time. If you walk on it, you'll notice that you get it in your shoes. It's quite irritating. And I'm not sure how much safety factor there is in falling on rock. It's still a non-compressible item. By that I mean it's a dense substance and it will not shrink. What are you smiling about? Anything? Okay. Not you, Debbie. The one behind you. This is a really attractive piece of playground equipment we've been using for a long, long time. That obviously we have decided to let go, and it's out of here already. along with this one. This piece is virtually unusable for children that are 2 and 3 years old. And that's who's in our preschool. They try, and if they get up there, then it's a danger because they're too high. And they're over a surface that's not suitable for it as well. So that's gone. This is the old concrete apron that was kind of the playground area. I have to think that this was originally done by a team of Northminster volunteers because of the way it looks and the way it's poured. The concrete surface, it's an effect that we call souping. When you soup a surface like this, it loses the integrity of the surface on the top inch. You put too much water in it, basically what it is. So it's just literally disintegrating and is ugly. Here's another shot of that. These fences are all the lightest gauge fence that you can buy. This is all tubing material. That's why they bend so easy. The gauge on the fabric is as light as, so if you look at it, you can see where the kids have just kicked it out like crazy. It's just not enough steel to hold in those little guys, you know? They're vicious, so you really need something up there that you can hold these guys in with. So this is all coming out. Back one step. This piece of equipment here was going to be thrown away because it was deemed out of code. Well, it is out of code, and we had to shut it down, but it's because of one little belt here that dips 4 inches below. And if anybody's in the childhood business, they know that there's a 4-inch rule because that's the size that a child can get their head through. So you can't have gaps that are 4 inches. Well, Bob Gudgel took one look at it and said, this is easy to fix. So we've saved, that piece of equipment is probably $10,000. Yeah. And when we inspected it, we could find and the other company was recommending that this come down. We could not find any oxidation, any rust, anything. It's like it's new. Plus it says Northminster on the top. That ought to be worth something. So there we are. Next. This beauty. How many people want to be buried within 20 feet of a dumpster? Huh? Well, this is all part of the first phase, which has been approved by the session. This is coming out of here. We're getting rid of the dumpster completely. And so, Bob Gudgel is designing something out on the north parking lot. It'll take up 2 stalls. It's a 6-foot high shadow box fence, 4 feet deep, 8 feet, 10 feet long, in which the rolling plastic containers can be used. It'll be easier to get product out of the church and into the dumpster area, and then once a week, just like at normal home service, they'll come by and zoop them up. So it'll be a much better system. And that ugly thing will be gone. Okay, other things you need to be aware of. This pit out here, it's interesting, the whole design of it, to tell you the truth. But you can see we have a man head that's busted that presents a danger that is going to have to be addressed somewhere in the future. It's not a part of this project, and it's being quarantined, so it's being kept safe from the surface. This is not a good sign. Next. Just so you know, when we originally started looking at this, we were talking about extending this grass area out this way. This original wall here is bowed. I don't think it's going anywhere as long as you don't do anything to it. And what does that mean? We can't add any more compressive strength on it without doing some kind of an engineering work to it. You don't want to get a big D10 bulldozer up here on the top delivering stress to the bottom, or we might blow that out. So just to show you that. Then we had up on top 1960 shrubbery, that was there as a protective device and to hide all of this, which it does very well. Next. But as you can see, it's dramatically overgrown. And this is an element that needs to come out. This little area needs to come out, and I'll explain why in a little bit in the future. Here's the general condition of the asphalt. It's had it. It's had an overlay. That's what this is. Here, you see this? That makes it that's a sign of a real severe deterioration. The church got a price a couple years ago. Well, what if we just fixed that up? In other words, we milled it and repaved it. That price alone is well over $20,000 just to do that, to preserve something that we'll talk about a little bit later. Here's another shot. Asphalt's in very, very bad shape. Something needs to be done. I can't explain the shadow. It just shows how the sun's angle can distort, a human figure in a way that I don't know how it happened, but there it is. Here's one of the things that's bothered me out here for a long time. This tree that you see right out this window, we estimate it to be about 100 years old. It is a magnificent tree that carries a canopy 40 to 50 feet radius all the way around that tree. It's like having a dome over an area. And I've been concerned that this girdling of the tree, where you can see that it's actually growing into the tree trunk, is going to kill the tree. We can't get it. Some people say if you take the asphalt off, you'll kill the tree. Other people say if you leave it on, it'll kill the tree. There's no consensus on what to do with that. But this is something that is a significant problem. Okay? All right. To walk you through the thinking of the overall plan of the project, we broke it down, and when we started it, we broke it down into three phases to give the sessions cutoff points where they could determine the need for the project, whether we want it, what does it cost, can we spend this much, can we spend that much, this doesn't meet our needs, doesn't meet our mission, what have you. Well, it was clear that we had an obligation to the preschool, and that it was imperative that we do something about that. And I hope the church agrees with that. But the session has voted to go ahead and do that. I can show you here. Yeah, it's that same. Funny how it matched that, isn't it? How did I do that? All right, here's your education wing. Get you a little adjusted here. There's an educational wing. Ralston Avenue is down through here. Choir room, chapel, sanctuary, the pit. Narthex with that sidewalk coming up. Starting with the preschool. We are going to obviously renovate the barn, as I told you. But here's the big thing that we had to get underway right away so that we could beat the winter weather. The choice was we either do it now and have the project totally completed in March, with maybe them playing on the ground, or have it completed next September. Because if you delay concrete work into the spring when it's muddy, you wait. And assuming you can get a concrete contractor in the spring. That's a whole nother issue. So, if any of you have looked, we have taken out this retaining wall here, that old crummy thing, and we poured in place a concrete wall with reinforcing bar. And on top of that, we are putting a 42-inch high chain link fence here and here to keep those kiddies from falling off that ledge. It's something that should have been done a long time ago. It's a safety fence. So this is an integral part of it, plus we are pouring an ADA ramp here so that we are compliant. Now, my understanding is there's some things that you can do that you can get away with not doing that in a church setting. I don't think that's the way we want to lead. We want an ADA ramp. So this totally changes the game and gives us the ability to rejuvenate this whole area. The problem with this, the reason that this has to be there are there guidelines for code violation that if you don't, if the slope is over a certain percentage, then it's deemed a hazard for small children. And this would have been twice the slope. That was what was being recommended by the people that wanted the contract to begin with. Second thing is that it also exceeds by twice a washout rate on mulch. So subsequently, 2 or 3 hard rains we get a year, all this mulch that would have been in here would have been on the sidewalks. So this solves all of those problems and gets us into the grade. This is the existing piece of equipment. And you'll get to see these equipment in a little bit. A spring bouncer, it's a 4 kind of thing that kids bounce up and down. All these pieces of equipment have what's called a fall line. Fall line means how far out can a kid fall and get hurt from this piece of equipment, basically. So we have to provide certain cushion resilience under that specified area. And you can't have any fixed objects in that area. Both have to be complied to. So that's what these dashed lines are. But that's a spring bouncer. This is a zigzag balance beam that's about this high off the floor. You'll get to see them here in a second. With step stools. This is a rainbow climber. And it's not on here yet. I just revised it today. We are adding a little fire truck thing that is for handicapped ADA kids that will also be included in here. We are adding, believe it or not, a park bench for the teachers. So when they come out and watch the children, they can sit down because they don't hardly get to sit all day long. And from here, they have sight lines to everything. Okay? We're also adding a very novel thing, a trash can. Now, I've learned in the last month, trash cans are really expensive. I was stunned. This thing is like $600. Amazing. Yeah, I'm caught in the 70s. I don't know what to tell you. So after we'd gotten that all designed out, that old concrete pad that we were talking about, we're taking it out completely and then turning it into a nice square. This is going to become a patio area that I'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes. But it's a place where the kids can ride their bikes, trikes, etc. on it. And here comes the most important part of this aspect, I think. One of the things that I felt that the facility really lacked was the inability to protect the children from perps. We had this crummy 3-foot fence, whatever it is. I felt it was important that we design in an attractive 6-foot ornamental fence that, if nothing else, will slow them down. The guy driving down the street that intends to snatch a kid. I know it's 1 in a million, 1 in a billion, but if we can do something about it, we should do it. More to be discussed. Here, and I'll show you more, here in the facility, this is going to have some interesting aspects to it. There will be a panic bar installed here because the fire regulations getting away from the building in the case of the fire. There'll be a 12-foot walk-through gate that will usually be open to the public here that can open out to allow people from coming in here into this area. And then, of course, the sidewalk. This is the conclusion of, and then nice decorative landscaping that's being ironed out by Linda. This is the total of what phase 1s and 2s that has been approved. The cost on this is $68,000. The original quote we had for just putting in 3 pieces of equipment, tearing this out and putting in mulch was $55,000. No concrete, no ADA ramp, no anything. And I'll talk a little bit more about this area here in just a second. Phase 3, which is once again a judgment call on the church to decide whether it meets mission statements, places you want to go, things you want to do. But phase 3, I think, is as important to outreach from my perspective as many of the others. And that involves turning this area into a green space. This green space would involve taking out all that asphalt on that turnaround, that concrete around the tree, that sidewalk that comes down here, saw cutting this edge down through here, removing all those big shrubs that I pointed out up there. And starting from the top, we would put a 42-inch fence in here to keep the kids out of the pit. And then there would be new plantings in front of it. But we would gain substantial amount of green space on the other side of the sidewalk that is now covered up by all those overgrown shrubs. There would be decorative shrubs put around the outside to add a sense of privacy. And the reason is several-fold. This we consider a major multi-use area. Church services could take place out there. If you see this on here, there is seating for 254 people in these green areas. You could have outdoor weddings there. You can market the church as a place for outdoor weddings with the advantage of, if it rains, guess what? Right next door, you can go inside. Picnics, church picnics. Church picnics could utilize this area as well. Fairs. We've already had teachers talking to me about doing Easter egg hunts out here. Other kinds of play with the small children. The price tag on this one is going to be between $40,000 to $50,000. Which, so total, everything is $110,000, $115,000. We're well down. We were originally at somewhere around $200,000 when we were starting. But we've deleted things. We've deleted the shelter house. We deleted the brick wall. We just thought that they were not needed and expensive. So, next please. Yeah, this gives you a little bit clearer idea. This is that concrete retaining wall that's going in over there. This is what the ADA ramp will look like. This is that existing slab as it is now that's coming out. Next. Okay, this I'm excited to talk to you about. This is that concrete pad that's coming out and the new one coming in. We have designed for this area multi-use. There will be 3 8-foot high-quality picnic tables placed that have ADA wheelchair accessibility on one end. So somebody in a wheelchair can have a place to eat their lunch. This here represents the canopy of an umbrella system that we're going to purchase. So that there's one of three. So basically, when the preschool goes out here, they have a place that they can do crafts, they can do lunch, they can do a variety of other activities. And one of our concerns was providing a place for the children to be able to get out of the sun. Sun's a big deal in preschool design. So when they all blow up to their size, all of a sudden you've got a room that's 15 feet by 27 feet. And you can get 6 little kids easily on an 8-foot run. So you can see you got 12 kids per table. There's room out there for 36 people. Children's church, Bible studies can go out there. The Striders were talking about using the facility. The youth group, this could be great for the youth group because right outside this here is where we're going to put the fire pit. So if the youth group wants to have an activity, maybe throwing frisbees and footballs in the grass area, open this up and have this facility right here like that. We're also going to add a 4-square and not this one, but a very exciting design on a hopscotch. Okay, next. That is the piece of equipment that we call a spring bouncer that's going in. Those are some what we call pebbles, which are part of the zigzag beam. That is the zigzag beam. This is the rainbow climber. And those are all over here in this area. Okay? This is the umbrella system that we're purchasing. This is the teacher's bench. All of this stuff is very expensive, but it's all first class. And it's all in-ground mounted, so it's not going anywhere. This is the fence that goes around the outside and at 6-foot height. Yeah. Yeah, you can go ahead. This is just the initial landscape plan for the area over by the AD ramp coming out. This is the education wing here. So there's a 3-foot planting bed here. I don't know what they all are. I'm not that guy. You need to ask Linda about this stuff. Okay, so that's how that all comes back and around. One of the things that I wanted to point out to you, why this is such an essential multi-use patio, basically. There is electrical access. If we were having a fair or the church picnic or anything like that open up, all these big gates can be opened. So it makes this a big unitized area and allows you to be able to use these picnic tables and, if you're going to set up coffee pots, anything that might go along that way. Okay, next. This is briefly the area of asphalt that's got to come out like that. And that asphalt depth, we're talking about excavating 12 inches of material out of there. It's going to take 15 triaxle dump trucks worth of dirt to put the dirt back in. So it's substantial. Okay? Am I done? All right. Well, then I think I just have a couple of concluding comments. Let me say a couple things before we let Debbie and Brian take over. Hang on a second. Oh, yeah, and obviously all of those areas would be seeded and strawed and landscaped to the nines, so it's just exactly what we do want. Yes. Yes. Yeah, there is a place. All right. The question is there a way to expand the columbarium? And the answer is we've had a plan ever since we designed it. There's an exact duplicate area of what's there now that basically flips over to the other side and doubles the columbarium area. That, if in a perfect world, will be funded by the sale of the units. So when this side is full, we should have the money ready to do the other. Let's talk about maybe putting a privacy gate then in between the two columns. I was also approached today about maybe adding an area for loose ashes if it's legal, that people that just want to scatter. So things. Right. Just a couple other things I would like to say about this before I give up here. Obviously, the session is responsible for all of this and making the decisions whether it's the wise choice for the school or not. I hope you share the same feeling that I have, that we have an obligation for the preschool, and the preschool has a pretty strong control. I tell you, if you ever get over there, those gals back there in the corner are great. They're doing a wonderful job. The third thing I'd like to say, and it's the only thing I'll say about money, if it means to you, if you would eventually sometime give money to this, but you would take $1 away from the annual campaign to provide for that, then I would encourage you not to give to this. We'll find a way to get the money. We'll complete this. Rather, remember to support the annual campaign. It's the most important part of what we do here. So,
thank you.
Am I on?
Yep, you're on.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. I may be co-chair of Buildings and Grounds, but Jerry is the king of this whole project.
That's right.
We wouldn't be where we are now without all of his. I think there's been about 1,400 iterations of design. I'm not sure. But so, Jerry, thank you so much for all you've done to get this project going. Now, maybe what I have to say in the next couple of seconds will help you understand how we plan to fund this. First of all, Jerry is quite right. We don't want you to take something that you would normally give to the stewardship campaign to give to this project. Session has made a promise that we will not interfere with the stewardship campaign at all. So you won't hear anything from us for a while, if at all. So in June, when we first started talking about this, Shiloh O'Rourke, the director of the preschool, began to make some inquiries of preschool parents and past parents, and was able to gather about $20,000 just in those conversations. Then we kind of put a hold on that campaign, if you will, because we were making some changes because King Gray was doing his thing, and we knew it was going to be better.
King Gray, that sounds good.
So we are now going to go back to that phase of talking to parents and past parents of the preschool to see about their interest in making this project come to fruition. So we've got $20,000 from them right now. When we presented to the session, miraculously $15,000 came through that evening in unsolicited and anonymous gifts. So we have $35,000 in hand from gifts alone. Then we have some memorial gifts that are out there. Mission team is going to be providing for some funds as well, and some other groups have indicated an interest in funding this project. So we could, by the end of the year, have fully funded and paid for phases 1 and 2. That ain't bad. Now, we'll make a determination in January if we have some funds left over, if we've gathered more funds than we thought we would expect. Because this is exciting. This project is, the excitement around it is palpable. So we hope that we won't have to do whole lots of give me this or give me that people will see a need and will fund it without dipping into their stewardship campaign funds. I'll say that again. So in January, the session will make a determination as to whether or not we start a campaign in full to come back to the congregation and say, here it is, here's what we need. We want to do this. Hope you'll step in with us and make it happen. Do I have that right, Brian?
That's it. You got
Okay.
it. That's it.
Any questions about that or other parts of this project?
The only thing you might be missing is I think that there was another $5,000 check today, maybe. I can't remember. So we may be at $40,000
Yay.
instead of $35,000. I think that's what Lori told me today. So Shiloh has the green light to go ahead and do, as Debbie said, to go ahead and reach out to the families. And she has the list of, obviously, all the current families, but she's going to go back to former families as well. She's being asked a decent amount about how they can support the project. So, as was said, there's so much energy around it, and if you want to see the excitement on the faces of the teachers someday, just come in and ask them about this project. They can hardly contain themselves. I've been able to have some conversations with them about the future, and to think that maybe in the spring they'll be out there on a brand new playground. They're just ecstatic. And what I want to say is, in addition to all of this, this fits so well with the mission and vision of this church. My first Sunday was actually my candidating sermon Sunday. When I pulled into the parking lot, there was a dad in the parking lot teaching his little kid how to ride his two-wheeler. And I remember saying to Jennifer that day, I'll steal a line from the sermon this past Sunday, this is different. To have a neighborhood around a church where the people of the neighborhood already trust the space is huge. Morteza and Lori and I meet every Monday, and we were sitting in the conference room, and Morteza was looking out the window, and he started giggling, and there's a grandma out there with Bubbles. This is on a day when the preschool wasn't meeting, with Bubbles just running around with her two little grandkids, blowing bubbles for the grandkids in our north parking lot. And so to know that families are already using the grounds here to be families in the neighborhood, and to put an accessible and exciting playground here serves this neighborhood in just a brilliant way. The closest one to these homes is just on the other side of 54th Street, just north of 54th Street. So you're not going to go on the Monon. So it's not even right here. You got to go all the way to the Monon and go down the Monon. So you're not going to do that if you're a parent with little kids. You're not going to go that far. So I think that it's going to be used every single day. Once it gets open in the spring, summer, and fall, you're going to have little kids out there with their families enjoying it. So I can't thank you enough for the vision, but the committee for the work that you all have done putting this together. And every time I see Jerry Gray, he saves another $5,000 on this project. I think Sunday he told me he found maybe 15 on phase 3. So he's continuing to think about how to save money by doing things that may not need to be done, but the spirit of it is the same. So I'm really excited and would love to hear your questions. But I again just want to reiterate the financial part. So you've got, what you've heard is somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 has already come in. That's real money. That's not just pledged money. That's money in hand. And so the first phase of this portion that they're doing right now. They've already poured half of the retaining wall, so you need to go out and look, and put the posts in for the fence for that half. The other half has forms on it and is ready to be poured, probably be poured not tomorrow, maybe. It depends on rain. But they're planning on being here tomorrow to pour it. And then they're going to tear out the pad and start work on that. But the first half of that's already paid for with the money that had come in. So we already wrote them a check for that. And then the rest of that's due at the end. And we have the money in hand to pay for that part of the project. Jerry's leadership saying, we got to get the concrete done. The rest of it we can do all throughout the winter if we need to. But the concrete's got to get done. And it's going to be done. It's going to be done before the weather gets too cold. So you will not be approached. There will not be a campaign until after the first of the year and our stewardship campaign is over, because we want to make sure that, as they both said, that gets our top priority. We have some big dreams and visions for this church, for where we're headed in the future, right? And Northminster has a beautiful future ahead. The story's beautiful to tell. John? Mm-hmm. Great question. That's a great question.
The initial thoughts are,
Here, wait, hold on. Let me give you a microphone. So I think we have some folks that joined us online, so you should be on.
yeah, the question was, how are we going to let them know? And I might address a couple other issues that we talked about with that. We intend to put some signage out there, really close to the front door, and saying something along the line that the playground is closed while school is in session, but the neighborhood is welcome to its use after the session is over. We intend to make a point of inviting them in. And people have brought up to me, not only with this, with a proposed basketball court that we're talking about putting it up here, well, what if we get the wrong crowd in here? That's the crowd we want. That's Matthew 25. I don't know how else to say it. If anybody needs our help, it's them. So, but I think realistically, you know, I notice at my condominium complex, we spend about $25,000 a year to stop about $100 worth of vandalism. We'll just deal with it as it comes.
And the other thing that, John, I want you to know, so you're getting some new news here. An offer was made and accepted for a new communications person to start for Northminster. And so we're really excited about that. That will start next week. And in the interview process, I asked this question, not about the playground, but about the church. Our vision, how we understand the gospel at Northminster, Matthew 25, focus, open and affirming congregation, fits the passions of this neighborhood almost to a T. And so the question that I asked prospective folks for that position is, how do you suggest we get that message out to our neighbors so that they know that this is a place that's safe for you, this is a place that wants you here, and Northminster is your congregation, whether you're a member here or not. We want this to be their church, right? So how do we get that? And hearing the feedback from these really creative types about how to do that was just energizing for me. It's right there. And I think that this is a part of that. Advertising that playground as it's here for you. And it's as simple as putting the preschool hours up on a sign, you know. Closed during these hours, open for the rest of the time. Come on.
We feel we accomplished both. We've never had the children secure prior to this. We want to be able to lock them in, lock people out for a controlled period of time, have them a way to get out, and in case of an emergency, just so you know, that little door hookey costs around $1,300. They're not cheap, but it's good $1,300. And maybe we ought to put flyers on people's doors in the neighborhood, letting them know, telling them there's a little announcement that here it is. So
Here's the other thing that I want you to know. One of the best parts of the day is to just go out and watch cars slow down that are going north or south. All day long, there are cars slowing down. First of all, if you got little kids in your car and there's big equipment working out here, they want to watch the big equipment. But there's a little bit of neighborhood buzz about what's already happening, and that's really exciting.
I spoke with our direct neighbor this evening, and they're very excited. I thought maybe I ought to see if they were. And they're planning on staining our side of the fence for us. Which, isn't that nice? I thought so too. Anybody else have any questions?
Here, take the mic so that people online can hear you.
My question kind of goes along with that. I was thinking, man, we should have invited the neighborhood to this meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And so maybe we can have another meeting like this where they're welcome to understand the vision, and if they wanted to contribute, they could. But I think like inviting them in to be a part would be awesome.
That's a great idea, Jen.
We've talked about
Well, ice
something
cream
similar
social.
to that, not a community meeting per se, but an open house where we could have the church open and they could come and play on the playground once it's done and enjoy that and hear about our vision too. Dedication, yeah.
Any other questions?
John said maybe an ice cream social, which I think that's a great idea.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, are there grants that you can
Yes.
approach to get some of the funding?
Yes, there are.
Yeah, repeat the question there, Jerry.
The question was, are there grants available? And through my wandering through the internet, looking at different playground equipment and manufacturers, almost all of them are talking about playground grants are available. I have not done it. We need somebody else to do that. Thank you. Any other technical questions?
I do think that's a great question, though, for us to explore. And if you know someone that has that in their background, a little grant writing skill set, let me know, because I'm not averse for us chasing down some of those grants. And it may even be something that we could approach the Presbytery if we only knew someone that was attached to the Presbytery, like maybe the moderator or something. I think this might be something that maybe the Presbytery would be interested in throwing a little money toward, just because it's a vision for the neighborhood.
One last piece of what I would consider pretty important information. The biggest contractor that we have here is this concrete guy. And our church has worked with him forever. He was all about with you guys when you were doing your stuff, John. And he poured the columbarium and a number of things. We've been working with him on setting up phase 3. He will know this week whether he gets a job up at 71st and College. There's tremendous savings by not moving equipment off of a site and then coming back. If he gets that job, he's got 15 truckloads of topsoil for us for free. Because if he takes it out of there, he's got to throw it away. That must be what he's doing. I don't know. He said someplace up in North College. So, and that shouldn't be a pressure thing, because we still have to take care of our home business. We've got to take care of our mission work. We've got to take care of all of it. So, but maybe the foundation will think about it. That always causes trouble. So,
Have it on record that was Jerry Gray that said that.
I said that. Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Well, before you all leave, I want to say this. As I conclude my 7th week, I think that's right, 7th week here, this is really exciting. And I have 3 folks from the PNC here. I think 3, yeah. As we had conversations, the things that were so exciting to me about Northminster were all centered around the energy of moving forward the whole time. The tendency of a congregation is to wait during an interim and to just, we're going to wait and just see what the new person does and, what their vision is. And y'all did so many amazing things during the interim time. That was so exciting to me. And this is one of the things that is exciting. This kind of vision for your neighborhood, our preschool, the ministries of Northminster. Yeah, you can't put a price tag on that as far as what that does for a congregation. So I just want to thank you all because you're the ones that have that vision, and I get to be a part of that. And it is so thrilling. So thank you. Thank you.
One last thing, because I always have one last thing. I want you to, as you go out of here today, I want you to think about the 3 most successful services we've had this year. All 3 of them took place in Broad Ripple Park. The highest attendance, I think, was at all 3 of those. Imagine what kind of outreach it would be if our entire congregation was sitting right out there singing to our own neighborhood. I think it would be powerful. I think it would be something. And I've already talked to John Wright about the potential of doing a Sound and Spirit outside. So.
You need a lot of power then, Jerry. I hope you put the power.
That's true.
Power's already there.
We got power.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things is there's power electrical out there in 3 different places. So that's not being tapped right now. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.